Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Sarah Monahan. She is the U.S. head of verticals at Roku. In this episode, we're talking about B2B client experience. We're talking about the state of advertising in the world of streaming, and we're talking about the future of streaming and what that means for customer experience. Please enjoy Sarah Monahan. Sarah, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Where are you based?
I am based in New York and I live on Long Island.
Okay, perfect. So, for our audience, Sarah, that don't know you, let's just kick off by talking about Roku. Roku is a very hot brand. A lot of us have it in our homes. But for those that aren't familiar, can you just talk about what is Roku?
Of course, Roku is really the front door to streaming. So, Roku is the platform by which over half of Americans in the United States access every streaming app they leverage. So, from Peacock to Netflix to our owned and operated Roku channel, it's a platform that gives you access to subscription based as well as ad supported content, all streamed over
Mm-hmm.
the internet.
Okay, so does that mean you have like 170 million customers?
Correct. So about 76 million households, and we average, about two per household. So access to, over half of Americans, and really our audience makeup is a really accurate representation of the US.
Okay, perfect. So you're a US based service or do you offer international as well?
We offer international as well. Started in the US, biggest bases in the US, but we've made a ton of penetration into really key markets such as Mexico, Canada, LATAM, and it's becoming increasingly a big part of our reach story.
All right, Sarah. So I think that this is such an interesting conversation today because, streaming, these are things that didn't exist 30 years ago. And so that creates a whole new economy, that creates a whole new set of products that you can offer. Let's just actually start with this. How does Roku make money?
Sure. So Roku itself, from a hardware perspective, can come in a few forms. So I don't know, like, what you use in your house to stream. I probably should have asked that out the gate. Are you a Roku user? Do you use other devices?
Yeah, I actually don't use Roku in my house, but my mother in law has it and really likes it. So some of our family has Roku, but I don't have it, not yet.
Wonderful. Not yet. Key
Soon.
message there. So as far as the hardware side of the business, it is a combination of our Roku sticks, which retail for anywhere from $40 to $90, and really were the entry point for us into the television market. So a really easy stick that you plugged into your television to make it quote unquote smart 10, 12 years ago, and that enabled access to our operating system, which is the really easy interface that your family uses to access all of their streaming apps. We've also got a television side of the hardware business. So we power a lot of television sets in the United States, such as Hisense. And then most recently, about just under a year ago, we rolled out our own Roku television. So 100% powered by our operating system. So it's the combination of those three from the hardware side that do give us that penetration into over half of the US market. And then as far as on the advertising side, we make a lot of our revenue generation through, partnering with Fortune 500 B2B companies and enabling access to our audience and enabling, very scalable advertising solutions, much akin to what they're used to from a more traditional linear side.
So, one of the things that I get asked about a lot is B2B client experience. B2B client experience, there's a lot of similarities between B2C and B2B, but there are some key differences. Just in your experience, what do you think are some of the key tenets of a good B2B client experience? What are your clients looking for?
That's a really interesting question. I think particularly in the last 5, maybe 7 years, our clients are looking for innovative, scalable ad solutions, but more importantly, they're looking for performance. So every dollar that our brands spend, no matter on Roku or not, are so accountable, and our marketers are so much more accountable than they used to be. So for us and for the partnerships that we build, it's really a combination of providing addressable, relevant ad opportunities, but ad opportunities that can be measured and do perform based on whatever the KPI is of our brand partner.
Okay. And so how much data are you sharing with the B2B client? Like what are they asking to see about the customer?
Sure. So that's probably one of our biggest advantages is the understanding of the streamer that Roku has. So if you think about our scale and then the amount of data that we understand about every customer in a really unique way, that is ultimately what enables us to help our brands not only understand how to find their customer, however broad, however narrow they define them on the platform, but also leveraging data to help them understand what those customers are doing. So, as you mentioned at the start, this world looks completely different than it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. And what we do is we leverage our technology to help our brands understand not only what their investment on Roku looks like, but also what their customers are doing on traditional channels. For them, it's really about understanding the shift from linear to streaming, but also even more precisely, what type of content, what type of channels, what type of apps are our customers engaging with so that they can make really smart decisions about their investment, whether it's with Roku or, other partners that happen to live on our platform.
And so how much of the work that you guys do, how much is that consulting to the B2B client, like on how to reach the customer better? Or do they already know what they want?
Our goal is to spend at least 50% of our time as a consultant to our customers. I love that you use that word because we were the first in the space, because we are a market leader. It's our responsibility to educate our marketers on what this shift looks like, what pockets it's happening in, how quickly it's happening, what it looks like by demographic, what it looks like by content genre. And because we sit on that wealth of data, we are in a position to be able to educate them. And it's absolutely our responsibility to help them understand the shifts and then, more interestingly, the behaviors that exist once someone does cut the cord and convert to a streamer. And if we do that well, the partnership, the dollars, all of that will come. But I think that's what's enabled us to actually build really meaningful relationships with our marketers because we are more than an inventory source. We're ultimately the best teacher they can tap into.
I think what's interesting to me about your business is a lot of our listeners and viewers could relate in that you don't necessarily, it seems to me, control or own the whole experience. Because obviously, let's say Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or Disney, you aren't producing that content. You don't produce the look and feel. You are the gateway. You said the front door. So, what does that mean for you as a brand when some of it seems to be out of your control, some of the client experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always sort of think of it akin to my iPhone. So as long as we're focused on the operating system, on the best customer experience, so my father who can with love like barely use his iPhone, he better be able to use the Roku operating system with ease. So if he can find that show on Netflix, if he can find the live linear sports event that he used to be able to find in a very easy way on cable or broadcast, but now it's shifted to Apple or Peacock. If he could find his content with ease and feel really comfortable leveraging our platform, then we win. We win in terms of, ensuring that we never lose a streamer to another competitive platform, but we also win when it comes to our advertisers because scale is everything, as you know.
So you're the operating system in a way. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Okay, so if you're the operating system, you're advising the client on how to reach the viewer through the operating system. What's interesting to me about streaming is a lot of us purchase streaming to get away from advertising. So, the advertiser knowing that customers want less ads and are paying for premium services so they don't have to watch ads, how are they continuing to reach a customer that might not want to see ads?
Yes, I think that's kind of the holy grail in terms of if we had a crystal ball, all of us would love to look forward in 2 to 4 years, really look at what is that makeup of a subscription viewer versus a ad-supported or somewhere in the middle of subscription and ad-supported viewer. What we've seen is that on the subscription side, there's a decent amount of churn. There's sort of this habit and behavior that is starting to become fairly mainstream where I might subscribe to Apple to watch the second season of the morning show, but when that season is over, I'm going to unsubscribe because I'm looking to keep my costs down. The entire reason you cut the cord is, ultimately it's cost savings. What we've seen is that as that churn is happening and as people are chasing content and chasing seasons and, specific pieces of content on apps, they're offsetting that with ad supported content. So they're offsetting it with a subscription to Peacock that enables them to see less ads, but still ads, or they're leveraging the Roku channel or Tubi, this these apps that exist that are 100% free content and 80, 100,000 pieces of content libraries, but with an ad experience that often is a lesser load, is more targetable, and ultimately a better user experience, even with ads, than what we became quite used to in linear and
Yeah,
other
I mean, just
channels.
look at a show like Yellowstone. Yellowstone, like to find that show, like which season, and then there's a movie about Yellowstone, like the last season. Where is it? It's somewhere else, and it's just very hard for customers to keep up. So it is like the wild, wild west of streaming services right now. And even I get asked so much about what is the future of streaming. What do you think? What kind of trends are you seeing with the streaming services as customers are so fickle and just don't want to stay with one streaming service for a long period?
Yeah, we are seeing because a lot of the streaming services are also big customers of ours. As you can imagine, they leverage our home screen and other places in our UI to capture and retain customers. So it's been such an interesting journey for them as it's become a more cluttered ecosystem. I wouldn't be surprised if you see consolidation and a fewer better model. So I think the average streamer is unaware, but as you know, many of the apps that we're leaning into and loving from a content perspective are owned by the same parent companies. So I do think you'll start to see sort of the super streaming app and an attempt to create a bundle, much like the cable bundle, that enables, myself or my brother to subscribe to a super bundle that gives them access to Disney Plus, ESPN, etc. So I think you'll see that consolidation. But I do think you'll also see, and you've seen it the past year, I don't know if there'll be an app that exists that isn't ad supported in some capacity. You've seen it with Netflix, you've seen it with Disney Plus, the gigantic content producers that at one time seemed like they would never, monetize their content. I think that they've recognized that in order to find a sustainable model and support the content investment, an ad supported model is the future of streaming. For us, it's just about how do we ensure it's a better experience than, the experience that came before it on other mediums.
So, what does make it a better experience for the customer? Because you remember when we were kids, we watched The Simpsons and The Oprah Show and Family Ties. There was no option on what ads you saw. And you saw ads if you were a kid, you saw ads for adults. If you're an adult, you saw ads for really old people. So there was no personalization. Is it still like that now, or are we getting smarter and more personalized about how we target customers?
Definitely a world of difference in terms of how smarter and more targetable we are in streaming. So it's absolutely true that streaming is the marriage of traditional and digital in a pretty spectacular way. It's the scale of linear, it's the biggest screen in the house, but it's an extremely addressable environment where I can target age, demographic, behavior, someone who saw my ad last week but hasn't seen it this week. There's so many different ways that you can be much more specific and thoughtful about the ad you're putting in front of a consumer. And then I think what you'll also see that is in sort of infant stages, but absolutely something that we're very bullish on is interactivity and training consumers and streamers to think about a future state where the ads are interactive, they're shoppable right off of the biggest screen in the house. All of that is going to ultimately make personal, addressable ads much more digestible and much more something that I'm willing to tolerate, if not look for, in exchange for free content and free, really premium content.
Yeah, I mean, if we think of Amazon's show Making the Cut, that was supposed to be one of the more innovative, like interactive TV shows where, the content they make is shoppable. Are you seeing more of that coming to play? Are you guys talking about that inside Roku, or is that just, are we not there yet?
Absolutely. We have done some really interesting partnerships with the likes of Walmart and Shopify to enable checkout straight from the TV screen. So we've got an entire team whose sole focus is testing, iterating, trying to understand what the creative treatment needs to look like in order to drive conversions straight from a television screen. So it's early. And I think for us, partnering with brands who want to think about a future of shoppable television, a future where I see the beautiful blazer you're wearing and I can in real time buy it because it's an impulse and I can't help myself. And I do want to know where you got it after this. But I think it's absolutely where this is headed. And it'll be a different experience than mobile, but it'll be just as powerful.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, so often we're looking at these shows, and even on the morning show, I'm like, where Jennifer Aniston's clothes are
Yeah.
stunning. I feel like that's just a show about how beautiful and well dressed these women are. Like, good for them. But yeah, so I mean, this idea that you're watching this story unfold, but you can also like transport yourself into the story, and you can be part of the story by buying the clothes or the kitchenware that they're using to make breakfast on the TV show. But it is very early days. Is this something your clients are talking to you about at all, or they're just more traditional advertising?
They are talking about it, they are testing it. We see big traditional retailers as well as really forward-thinking digital-first retailers leaning in different ways. So for a big box retailer, we're having a lot of really interesting conversations on the incredible investment they make in their influencer network that they primarily leverage for social. How do they translate that to television? How do they get the same influencers to create content that works well in streaming, which is more of a lean back environment, definitely a different user experience than mobile, but they're really willing to test because again, the scale is so massive and the time spent streaming is so incredible. I think last Cyber Monday, like 270 million hours of streaming in one day. So considering that half the country was also out shopping, it's just pretty startling how much time we're spending with streaming. So in turn, a lot of brands want to understand, okay, what's the opportunity to create more of a purchase based marketing strategy versus what's traditionally been largely about awareness and driving, down the funnel so that I'll eventually buy it on my phone or on my computer.
Yeah, and I think it's a tough. You have to be careful. Like, for example, Peloton. they launched an apparel brand, but it just felt like a very rocky start to get that going. But again, you're watching a screen with an influencer, a fitness coach that you follow. You want to look like her, you want her clothes. Okay, well, you can buy the Peloton leggings, but the rollout of that,
Mhm.
like, you have to be very careful, it seems, because you can easily make missteps, whether that's overproducing or they had a world of challenges getting that going. Let's just talk about the future of advertising. I know we already kind of addressed a lot of it, which is like an interactive advertising, experiential advertising. I mean, what for you is one of the most exciting trends that you're seeing on the future of advertising in the streaming world?
I think one of the most exciting things we're seeing is willingness to think about leveraging streaming outside of the traditional 15 or 30-second commercial. So while a video spot is absolutely a very necessary component of a marketing strategy, and the storytelling, the sight, sound, and motion, like 1,000% is the anchor of every plan we build with our partners. But there's a lot of other parts of the streaming journey. Again, I always harken back to my own experience. Sometimes it takes me 40 minutes to decide which app I'm going to go into. So I sit on the home screen of Roku, or I toggle, between apps trying to decide ultimately what my kids want to watch. But in that journey, there's opportunity to expose your brand to streamers in such creative ways. Roku City is, our screensaver that traditionally was just this amazing animated cityscape that people tweeted about every 10 minutes. We're now inserting brands in there in really unique ways. Target this weekend. So to see one of the most iconic brands show up in Roku City, it's such a scale reach vehicle, but more than that, it's this opportunity to create fandom and create, a little Easter egg that streamers can find that is a super memorable tactic for brands. So I'm really excited to see all of our partners opening up their strategy to think about leveraging the entire platform from start to finish versus, one spot before you lose me in what could be a, SPOT experience, a subscription based experience.
All right, Sarah. Well, thank you for that. I think whole city of Roku. I'll have to check that out. Let's talk. Let's
It's
talk a
really
little bit more
fun.
personal. Get to know you a little bit better for rapid fire. Are you ready to do some quick answers to my quick questions?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
What is the most important part of your morning routine?
My Starbucks,
What's your coffee drink of choice?
a non-fat latte with too many shots of espresso in it.
Perfect. Okay. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I try to read, but I would say lately, if I could catch 30 minutes of any Bravo show, it does relax me, even though some people say it's not a relaxing thing to watch.
Does that mean you have cable?
No, entirely through the Peacock app.
Oh, super. Okay. Well, I guess that is the next question. What are you currently streaming right now? What show?
I just finished the second season of the morning show, or third season of the morning show, which I thought was a wild ride. And I just found a show called The Curse on Paramount Plus, which is
Hmm.
really interesting. Strong plug to check it out because I feel like it's a little under the radar. And then I am a sucker for holiday movies. So I've been watching every cheesy holiday movie this weekend, and I have
Hmm.
found some goodies, including on the Roku channel. Some fun plot lines with some good throwback actors and actresses.
All right. All right. Very good. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Ooh, perfect happiness is a good balance that enables me to focus on work and then focus on my kids, and nobody loses a moment of my focus.
Yes, ideally, right? All us working moms out there trying to achieve that.
Holy grail.
Um, right. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Oh, that's a great question. I think especially lately, I've been really trying to commit to being thoughtful about my calendar. So I've been using a color block strategy that a coworker uses, but it allows me to have very specific time for things like a walk, things like cleaning out my inbox, things like prioritizing, my most high value to do. And it's really working, I have to say, because I know no one has a moment. And sometimes it becomes so overwhelming that being really prescriptive about the day is a big helping tool for me.
All right, love that. What is your favorite type of vacation?
Anything with a pool and warm weather and maybe a casino, but that's
Mhm.
very third to the
Okay.
first two.
If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, I think I would have to say my grandmother, who I didn't get to know for very long, and I have so many questions for her.
Mhm. Yeah. And lastly, if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
I would say, oh my gosh, great question. I It's not fake it till you make it, but it might be something like that. Don't sweat the small
Fake it
stuff.
till you become it.
That's right.
That's
Thank
a
you.
perfect
That's a way
one.
better way of saying it.
No, I mean, fake it till you make it. Yeah, I like that. I think it's true. You do have to because you don't start out being this confident, amazing speaker like you are, advertising executive like you are. Sarah, it's been really fun getting to know you. If you are ever in LA, we should have a coffee or a cocktail. So please let me know. And I hope you'll
I
come
would
back
love that.
soon.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me.
And hey, if our audience want to get in touch with you, maybe they want to check out the advertising opportunities, how can they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Monahan, or you can email me at smonahan@roku.com. I
All
would
right,
love to hear from
awesome.
you.
Okay. All of you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media, including LinkedIn, Instagram, and X.